Hey Smutsters, it's Morgan, and in today's video I'm going to be going over my first book in the overall week read of the Acotar series. This is my second read through, so I'm hoping that I have some new opinions on different parts of the books and some new insights. So today we are going over the first one, A Court of Thornes and Roses. I read this in less than a day, thanks to Audible kind of speeding things up. I feel like it's really nice if you are trying to get through a book series quickly to also do Audible, because then you can listen to it while you're cleaning or cooking or driving, and I just feel like it is going to help me get through the series a lot faster than if I just straight read all of the books. So I made a list of notes for this reread that I maybe didn't notice last time or maybe forgot about. And there were actually a lot of them. So the first one is about Lucien. Like I forgot how mean he is in the first book, which is so funny because you have these like formulated opinions of the characters and you're like, oh, Lucien, and then he's like so horrible and you're like, ew, what are you doing? So I thought that was really funny. I also forgot about the masks that they have to wear because of Amarantha's curse thing. And it's just funny because, you know, Lucien's is like a fox mask, and I was just like, oh yeah, they have to wear these masks. I am a little confused on the masks because when you see fan art of the masks, there are ones where it's like their whole face is covered, and then there's ones where it's like just at their nose. But then Feyre is like confused at the end when she sees Tamlin's full face. And I'm like, how do you not know that that's Tamlin? Like even with a mask that like goes here, you know? So I thought that was interesting. I also thought that Andris, when he's like dying because he basically sacrifices himself to see if Feyre will fall in love with Tamlin to break the curse, they never talk about him again. Like I honestly forgot that was a whole like plot point, that Andris has to die and like that's how the whole story starts. Like they never bring him up again. And I just think that that's really interesting because it's such a pivotal point in the whole story. The next one is that when Rhys meets Feyre and he's like, I've been looking for you, I was like, ah. It's such, like when you know what that actually means, it was just so like, I just felt like so like giddy. I was like, oh my gosh. And it's so sweet. And so Rhys asks Feyre if he can escort her somewhere when they're at that party where Tamlin goes off and has to do all that crazy spring court stuff. And she says, no, not me. I would be like, let's go, you know? Because she says he's like the most beautiful man that she's ever seen, which I think is really funny because she thinks she's in love with Tamlin. And then she's like, wow. So not me, I couldn't do that, but I just thought that was super funny that she's like, no, I'm good. I also forgot how early Tamlin says that he loves Feyre. Like, obviously that's a whole part of the storyline, is that she has to fall in love with him, so technically he probably should say that he loves her just to see if she can like break the curse. But yeah, like he keeps saying it and she doesn't even tell him until the end that she loves him. So I thought that was funny. I also forgot that Nesta isn't affected by the glamour. So like everyone else like totally believes the storyline of Feyre having this like sick aunt that she has to take care of. But Nesta's like, none of this affects me. Like my mind's too strong. And previously I've always said that like I don't like Nesta. I think she's super annoying and whatever. But I do think there are some things this round where I'm like, okay, like hopefully I don't hate you as much this second reread. And I like that she wasn't affected by the glamour. I like that when her dad's trying to talk about something that's like not helpful, Nesta like puts up her hand and is like, stop talking. And that Nesta went to go try to find Feyre. I thought that was nice. And at the beginning when Feyre gives them extra money for stuff, Nesta does chop the wood. So if anything, it's kind of seeming like Elaine is the most useless of this group. Like Elaine's affected by the glamour. Elaine like is in her own little world and doesn't help with anything. You know, she could be making vegetable plants, but instead she's just growing flowers. So who knows, maybe this reread I actually end up hating Elaine, but I've been trying to give Nesta the benefit of the doubt this reread and not go off of my initial feelings, so hopefully I'll have some growth in this one. Okay, oh, do you know what's crazy? The amount of times that it's talked about Feyre having, or it says like her bowels turned watery. I don't even know what that means. Like, like nothing's happening, right? Like she's not like going to the bathroom. So I just like, I'm confused on what that means. Like her stomach starts hurting, like, what does that even look like? And why is it written so many times? I want to say that this statement is written like 4 or 5 times in one book. I feel like Feyre, you know how they say like hot girls have stomach problems? Maybe Feyre is an example of that. I myself do not have stomach issues, but I just think it's so funny how many times that was referenced. So yeah, I wonder if Sarah J. Maas has stomach problems, because I wouldn't even think to have written that as something that Feyre continuously has to deal with. For the riddle, the first read where she has to solve this riddle about what Amarantha is saying, and the answer is love. I remember reading it for the first time and being like, oh, the answer is love. So I'm wondering, did you guys also like just know it? It's not like a complex thing. It seems like a romantic fantasy answer would always be love. You know what I mean? Like they're always like, love's the answer, and like love will save us, and love makes us do crazy things and all kinds of stuff. So I just like, when I read it, I was like, oh, it's love. And then Feyre's like so mean to herself through this, because she's like, oh, I'm so illiterate. Like, how am I supposed to figure out what this means? Like, I'm just like a stupid, I think she said she calls herself like a stupid, illiterate human girl. And I was like, chill out. Like, what are you talking about? So I just think that's funny. And another thing I thought was interesting is that so many people help Feyre while she's a prisoner. Like, obviously Lucien comes and fixes her nose, which like, obviously appreciated, but then Feyre basically is like going septic when she has that blood infection in her arm, and where Rhys is like trying to like fix it and is trying to convince her to stay with him in the night court, which they end up agreeing on doing 1 week of the month. But like, I just think that that's so crazy that she's like, no, like screw off, basically. I was like, dude, I think you're in a bad spot. Like, just agree. First off, you're in this dirty prison thing and you've got an infection. Like there's no way in your brain you ever thought that this was not going to be something that you were going to agree to. So, but it was nice that Rhys did help her, obviously, and made sure that she didn't die. So that's 2 people that are helping her. And then the third one is Lucien's mom, because the guards make Feyre do this like cleaning of the cell thing, and she only has dirty water and it's like making it muddy. And then Lucien's mom comes in and is like, for you helping my son stay alive, and then she like makes the water clean. So I just think there's a lot of people that are like breaking into this cell. You know, like this cell is not that well guarded. 3 Fae have broken into this cell. Like 3 out of 3, your stat's not good on keeping this cell like safe from people entering. So I thought that was really funny. And then towards the ending, I forgot that Tamlin's heart was stone. So when she has to kill the 3 people and then she gets to him, I forgot that that was like a whole plot point, that she needed to stab him and then that he would stay alive. So those were the main things that I had like forgotten about or had new opinions on. Obviously, like, it's crazy seeing Rhys as like this kind of bad guy. And there are some parts where you're like, ew, Rhys, like when he is at the party and he has like a different girl sitting on his lap. And yeah, like I think that's interesting. And obviously they call him like Amarantha's. I don't even know if I can say that on YouTube. But it was just really interesting seeing him as written kind of like a bad guy. Because like when he makes out with Feyre so that Amarantha doesn't think it was Tamlin, like it does give you kind of like ick vibes, but then you realize why he's doing it. And at the end, when Feyre is dead and she sees it through Rhys's viewpoint, and they obviously have that like mating bond that's like kicked in, and you know what that means. I feel like that's like such an interesting way to read it from, where you're like, oh yeah, they're mating bond. And I love Rhys's power that he can like go into people's minds, and I love that like anytime anything bad is happening to someone, he just like clears their mind so they don't have to go through it mentally. And it's just such a cool power. And I forgot about the claws in the mind when he's like getting into someone's mind. I thought that it's such like a really cool way of writing it. So it's like almost like these like thoughts come in and they like claw it, and then obviously in future books Feyre has to learn how to like unclaw it. But just a reminder that I really love Rhys's power, and he has such great character development in it, because by the second book you're like in love with him, right? So it's crazy that in the next book, which is this one, A Court of Mist and Fury, in the beginning of the book you're like so team Tamlin, and then it's like chapter 55 is where all that smutty stuff happens, but it's like, so we fall in love with Rhys in like this much of the book. And she like totally changes her plan. So I think that is super interesting. But yeah, so I read this in a day. You can definitely do it too. I would highly recommend. I have this in paperback on Kindle and on Audible, which has been really helpful because it's like you can't read paperback really at night. I have a book light, but it really, you can't read it super late. So it's like during the day, if you have free time, paperback. And then when it gets dark, then you need to use Kindle because it has that light feature. And then when you're driving around or cooking or cleaning, then you use Audible. So I see how people read like a book a day. You definitely have to have a lot of free time to do it, but I see how it can be done, because previously I've been like, how are people reading so quickly? So now I know. The next book review will be on this one, A Court of Mist and Fury, which I'm super excited to read. Now, I'm not sure how long this is gonna take. I wanna read the whole series in 7 days, so maybe I'll get through this today and early tomorrow and then make a video on this tomorrow afternoon. We will see, but this, I think maybe this is the one I'm most excited about because this is the love transition story. So I am ready to get into this after I finish editing and making this video. But yeah, so review for this book. Last time I think I gave it a 3 out of 5. It might have been a 3 or 4 out of 5. I would say this is a 4 out of 5. I feel comfortable with that scoring. If I gave it a 3 before, I could see how this would be a 4 now. It's a good storyline. I feel like there are some slowish parts, which is why I wouldn't give it a 5. But yeah, second reread, give it a 4. Favorite character is obviously still Rhys. In the Audible, she calls him, so we know his name's Rhysand, but she calls him Rhysand or something like that. It's like slightly different than what his name's actually supposed to be. And so I was just like, ugh, every time she would say his full name and not Rhys. So I wonder if that will change. And then also I know at some point they changed the Audible narrator, so I'll let you guys know at what point in the stories that is. It might be the last book, I'm not entirely sure though. But yeah, so this book is done. We are on our way through the 7-day Acotar reading challenge in preparation for Crescent City 3. And I will now be moving forward to A Court of Mist and Fury. So make sure you like this video, subscribe, and I will see you guys tomorrow for this review.